starting early next week. And we encourage you to go to that and review anything that you would like to. Either review it or see it for the Can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up. And I'm getting a lot of feedback. Are the rest of you getting that feedback?
Yes.
Put it to mute. Okay, can you still hear me? It says the host muted me.
That was Bill.
How about now? Okay, we'll try it this way.
You're at the Grand Canyon with quite the echo.
We're aware, we're trying to figure that out.
Linda, I see your name coming up in 2 squares, or actually you're on Bill's.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Try it now.
Okay, how's this? Is that any better?
Yes, you got it. You got it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about all the technical difficulties here. Okay, let's try this again. Anything that we are doing today is being recorded. We will have it up on the website early next week. By on the website, I mean the UMW page of the conference website, and you can either rewatch it at that point, watch it for the first time. If you would want to use any of it for a meeting that you're doing for your unit or for a group of people, you're welcome to do that as well. Let's go ahead and get started. I will be doing a presentation, and then we will open this up for question and answer. We ask that you put your questions in the chat feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen. If you kind of run your mouse over the bottom area of the screen, that chat should pop up as an option. If you click on that, you'll be able to get into the chat feature and type in what you would want to ask. And let's see what I can come up with for the future of United Methodist Women in Western Pennsylvania. When I chose this topic earlier this year, I realized I was setting the bar rather high for myself, but I didn't realize at the time just how high that bar was going to be. I did know that I wanted to challenge myself and you to look forward and not just back, and to dream into the future. Since that time, we've been faced with a pandemic, weather that's caused destruction and hardship for many due to climate change, and social unrest due to the ongoing racial problems in this country and beyond. We've had to face a new normal that causes stress and leaves us without many of our normal coping mechanisms. Please listen, and we will have time at the end, as I have mentioned, for questions and comments. So, how do we as United Methodist Women move forward in these times? I don't have any special insight into what the future holds, or for that matter, what each of you is experiencing right now. All I can do is tell you what I've experienced, what I hear, what I feel, and I'll also share a little bit of my hope for the future. This year has been a challenge, to say the least. When we began to hear about the pandemic early this year, I wondered what it would mean for all of us. My husband and I are a little bit of history buffs, and one of the first things that came to mind for us was, how is this going to compare to the Spanish flu of 1918, 1919? If you're not familiar with that, you might want to do some Google searches and see what that was all about. What would we need to do to mitigate the dangers of the pandemic? How would we function? It became early on in this journey that we would be facing changes that would affect how we function at every level of our lives. The orders to shelter in place and only go out for essentials was something most of us have never experienced. We had to change the way we shopped. We couldn't meet with our friends, couldn't go to church. So what could we still do? For some, it meant a total shutdown of our lives. We were paralyzed by fear and angry that we had to change the way we did things. That paralyzed many of us to the point of not knowing what to do, how to move forward, and made doing anything normal difficult. Life has progressed in little steps that eventually brought us back to a semi-normal way of living. Some of us are back in our sanctuary, some of us aren't. Some of our units are meeting in person again, and some aren't. Some of us have experienced minimal disruption to our daily lives, while some have experienced the whole range of problems and sorrow associated with this pandemic. How do we as United Methodist Women deal with this, and how do we move forward? I know some of you have started using Zoom to meet as units or for Bible study. Some of you are using group texts or emails for discussions and to keep everyone in touch with each other. I know that some of you have found ways to hold some of your fundraisers. I know some of you have used something as old-fashioned as a telephone conversation. As each one of us has tried ways to deal with this, I thank you for finding those ways. Thank you for being able to move beyond the "we've always done it this way" to "is there any way we can make this work?" You're thinking outside the box because we've had no choice. The old ways of doing things are not working right now, and we've had to learn new ways. Not that we need to completely reinvent what we do, but that we need to be doing it in a different way. Let's talk about that for a minute. Something I've heard a lot about in my short tenure as your conference president is that our units are getting older, that we don't have as many members, and we're tired. Those statements are true throughout United Methodist Women. I feel strongly that what we need to do is acknowledge these statements as true because they are, but instead of taking these statements as a reason for becoming inactive as a unit, let's look at it as a challenge to look at it in different ways and do different things. We don't need to have all the offices we used to. All you need is a president, a vice president, secretary, treasurer, and chair of nominations. Now, before you say to me, "But that's 5 people, I only have 3 people in my unit," you have a small group. You can combine the offices, just so long as you have those covered and you're doing those things. Talk with the women in nearby churches and see about merging your units. Become part of a district group or a conference group. And if you want to be part of a conference group, let me know, and I'll be glad to figure something out as to how we can do that. You also don't need to meet every month or have a full program. If you love the mission work of UMW and want to continue meeting, do it. Meet for coffee or tea or whatever your favorite beverage is. Get together on someone's porch, or possibly indoors if you have a large meeting space, depending on how your weather is at any particular point in Western Pennsylvania, and discuss the needs of women, children, and youth. Read a book from the reading program and discuss it maybe over the phone, maybe via Zoom, whatever works for you. Encourage women who are not currently in United Methodist Women, but are associated with your church, to form a subgroup. Think the old circles that may meet at a different time and maybe meet online instead of in person. Do you know someone from another church, denomination, or a neighbor that is interested in what we do, but is not part of your church? Ask them to join you. Yes, people that are not United Methodist can be part of United Methodist Women. Reach out and expand the work of United Methodist Women. Something else that sometimes we shy away from is the hands-on aspect of United Methodist Women. You may have heard the term Ubuntu if you've ever attended a jurisdiction or General Assembly of United Methodist Women. This is working in partnership with those that are different from us in some way, not just to help them, but to learn and share with them and from them. They can teach us as much, if not more, than we can teach them. This can be done locally or reaching further out geographically. Expand your understanding of the needs in and around your community. Open your eyes and your hearts to the needs around you. Try to look with the eyes of Jesus, not just your eyes, that you may see what is right in front of you that you may not have seen before. Another aspect of United Methodist Women that not all of us participate in is social action. I know this can be a challenge that some of us are not comfortable with, but it may also be a way of including new people into our group. The social justice priorities, that National has decided on for 2021 through 2024 are climate justice and criminalization of communities of mass incarceration. These priorities are very much in line with what is going on in our world right now. Our changing weather is affecting all of us in one way or another. Fire, flood, drought, pandemic, and the list goes on. Even if we do not experience these firsthand, it can and will affect us in the form of shortages and price increases. These problems affect communities of lower economic status and communities of color more than they affect the rest of us. Learn more about this and discuss it with others so that we can help to make changes that will help us in the long run. Any of these things, if you need some information to get started on them, go to our national UMW website, unitedmethodistwomen.org, and there are all kinds of things on that website that you can use to start learning, to start discussions, to find ways to actually start working. Communities of color and mass incarceration also affects us. I know one of the things that some of you are saying right now is that we do not have a large non-white population in Western Pennsylvania. And that is true in certain parts of the conference. But many of us are affected by the many prisons that are located within our area. And if we open our eyes and see with God's eyes, we may just find that there are actually more people out there of other colors than white than we thought there were. This is also part of the current racial justice issue that is in the news so much these days. It is an issue wherever we are. I saw a sign recently that said, "Injustice anywhere is injustice here." I strongly agree with that statement. Our God, our Lord, has told us to love our neighbor as ourselves. If we are doing that, and all of this is still going on around us, then at least some of us must not love ourselves very much. We need to step up in whatever way we can as individuals, units, districts, and the conference to address both of these issues moving forward. United Methodists and United Methodist women have a history of involvement in social issues, and in many cases, we have been in the forefront of the endeavors to make change. I feel that this is something that we need to bring to the forefront of our work once again, children and youth. And one of the easiest forms of social action is exercising our right to vote. If you have not already voted, and I thank you if you have, please take advantage of that right and cast your vote during this election. I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for by any stretch of the imagination. I just want you to get out and vote. Have your voice heard. What do I see for the future of UMW in Western Pennsylvania? Well, I see us needing to find new ways to engage more women in all age groups. We need to go back to our legacy of mission work and social action. We need to work with people and allow them to teach us what they need, not go in and tell them what they need. We need to be open to new ways of doing things, whether that means new technology or a new meeting time. We need to be willing to step out of our comfort zones and meet people where they are and learn from them. We need to open our hearts and minds to God's calling to each and every one of us to listen to and help His hurting creation, whether that is the earth or a neighbor near or far. I pray that you will join me in this journey of exploration and trying new things in a new way, but also continuing to use the things that we've been doing all along, but may need to reimagine at this point to fit this changing time. May God bless you as you move forward in this new adventure. I hope I've given you some food for thought. Maybe I could have given you more, but that's what I've come up with. Do you have any questions that you would like me to try to answer, or any thoughts that you would like to share with the group? Again, if you could use the chat feature, that would be helpful. I'll give everyone a couple of moments to see if there's something they want to ask. If you cannot figure out the chat feature, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can speak, but we would prefer to use the chat feature if we can. I guess I must have done a better job with that presentation than I thought I was going to, if no one has any questions. Either that or I've given you so much to think about that you don't know where to start. That might also be a possibility. If the chat is going to be too difficult for you, please go ahead and unmute and ask your questions that way.
What are some ideas to attract younger women?
Okay, one of the questions is, what are some ideas to attract younger women? Well, that's kind of a difficult one to try to answer because we've tried several different things conference over the last few years with a group called Unstoppable. And part of the problem with that age group from senior high through about 24, I believe is the age range, they are all extremely busy, in case you haven't noticed. And trying to find a place and a time that works for all of them is very difficult. One thing that has worked, at least with the officers of that group in the past, have been conference calls, Zoom calls, that kind of thing. And that might be the way we have to move forward. As far as what you can do in your local units, in your areas, my suggestion would be that you try to talk to any of the younger women that might be attending your church or that you know in your neighborhoods and see what they're interested in. Would they be interested in doing maybe a hands-on mission project? Would they like to get together and talk about a specific topic? You may want to look through the reading program list and see what's out there as far as books. I'm not saying they would necessarily have time to read a book, but it might give you some ideas on topics that you might be able to discuss with them. Get, again, maybe a conference call, maybe a Zoom call. You yourself may not be comfortable with doing that, but maybe someone in your church is. Or some of us have grandkids that are the right age that might be able to help us with that. So that's also a possibility. And then by doing that, you might also get them involved. So those are just a couple of ideas off the top of my head. And we'll go from there.
Linda, this is Donna
Donna.
Burkhart. How do we get the new reading list?
I believe it's on the website at this point.
Okay,
This is the National UMW website that I'm referring to.
okay.
Okay. Try that. If you don't have any luck with that, be in touch with me.
Okay.
All right. Wait. Yeah. We have another question about explaining, looking at the world through the eyes of Jesus. If you look in the Bible at the parables, for instance, that Jesus shared with us. He's talking a lot about the outcast, the least of these. And, you know, what we see as the least of these may be different than what he's thought of as the least of these. But some of the people that I'm thinking of would be homeless individuals, people suffering from drug and alcohol addiction, possibly single parent homes, and the children in those homes, people that have lost their jobs, that you may not realize have lost their jobs because they may be ashamed to share that with you. But if you watch those individuals and you see changes in them, that might be a clue for you. It's a subtle thing that you have to look for. It's paying attention to your driving, but also paying attention to the people that are walking on the streets of your town. Are they having trouble from what they're wearing at the time, maybe finding new clothes or good, decent clothes for them to wear? How many people are showing up at your community meal that your church might put on or your UMW might put on? Check with the food banks. Are they getting more and more people coming to them whenever they have their distributions? There are different ways of seeing what's going on around us that we don't normally see because we're not really focusing on that. We're focusing on where we're going or what the next meeting is, or did I remember to get something out for dinner tonight? We need to pay more attention to what is in God's world around us. That's really about the best I can tell you at this point. It's a little hard to explain. I see that we have another question about sharing some successful fundraising activities. Well, I've heard of a couple of different things. There have been trash to treasure sales, used clothing sales, you want to use for those. But the units have done them in a way that they restrict the number of people that are able to come into the facility where things are being displayed. At any given point, people have to wear masks, they have to social distance. So something like that is still possible depending on where you are within the conference. There are some different restrictions depending on where each one of us is located. I know my local unit is doing something a little bit differently this year. Pardon me. We normally have a couple of bake sales a year. Well, that's not something that's being encouraged at this point. So we're doing a bakeless bake sale, which basically means that we've announced it. We have a basket at the back of our church because we are meeting in person, and people are being encouraged to put donations in that basket without getting the goodies. Now, let me say something else about our normal bake sales, and that is we do not put prices on anything. We ask for a donation. And it's not unusual for us to get $20 for half a dozen cookies. So you may want to think about that as well. I see that somebody has popped up a comment that fundraising can also be done through drive-through dinners. I know our community dinner right now is free to anyone who comes and has been for a number of years. But we have switched from either having takeout or allowing people to eat in the church to just having takeout. Now, we had closed that down for several months during the shutdown period. We have gone back to that, and we have gone from, I think the first month we had 75, and this month we had 145 in 3 months. And I was hearing comments like, well, gee, where's everybody coming from? And my comment to the people was, well, maybe what they're saying, people are saying indirectly to us is they're running out of money. They're running out of ways to get food. We need to keep this up. We need to plan for even more people. And our next one is right around Thanksgiving. And that's usually a very big one for us anyway. So I said, we better plan for, however many we had last year, we need to up that number. How do we improve pastoral support for UMW? I'm assuming by pastoral support, we mean that the pastor is enthusiastic about UMW, or at least likes us, and that they're not giving us a hard time about the fact that we use our money for our outreach. Tell them to look at the Book of Discipline, for one. And the other part of that would be, I am more than happy to speak with any pastor, either in person or on the phone or texting, email, whatever. And as far as that's concerned, I'm more than happy to speak to any of you that way as well. If you have any questions or concerns, be in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. I would love to see all of you in person. Obviously, that's not possible at this point. But a phone conversation or exchanging emails, texts, whatever, is something that I am comfortable with and I am more than happy to do. Pastoral support, depending on what the pastor's experience has been prior to the church that you're in with him or her, has a lot to do with how they feel about UMW. And some of it is misinformation. And I'm noticing another chat that popped up, so that's what the smile's about. We need to make sure that what our pastors think they know about UMW is really correct for us as well. Comment is made that I'm switching to something else now, that October is Pastor Appreciation Month, which it is, but that it shouldn't just be October. It should be done all year long. Yes. Now, I might be a little more prejudiced on this particular subject than some because my husband is retired clergy. And I've worked with a lot of clergy in different capacities over the years, but they put in a lot of time and effort, whether it's a lay person that's serving your church, whether it's an ordained elder or something in between. They time and effort to deal with the church on Sunday morning, all the paperwork that has to be done. There's a lot that goes into it, and we need to say thank you on a regular basis, not just in October. I have another comment that has popped up in chat that says, Walnut Hill and Connellsville had a virtual quilt show on Facebook. And this is something I hadn't heard about before. This sounds like a great idea. A virtual quilt show on Facebook, and took in over $2,000. Ladies, I know that there are a lot of you out there that do, I'll say, handcrafts in one form or another, whether it's quilting, whether it's crocheting, knitting, embroidery work, whatever it is. that may be something that you want to think about. Something that just came to mind, because so many of us are not singing anymore in church at this point anyway. If some of you have a particularly good voice and you want to do something like, oh, I don't know, make a donation to UMW and I'll sing you a hymn, and give them a list of the hymns that you're comfortable with. Something a little different. That might be something that you could do as well. Off the top of my head, those are my answers to the questions that I've seen so far. If someone has something additional, we still have a few minutes that we could continue this discussion. If you would rather call me or text me or whatever, I will, in the chat box, go ahead and put my email address and also my phone number. Well, okay. And I promise you that I will get back to you. I don't always answer my phone, depending on how far away from the phone I am or what is going on at the time. Like if I'm hosting a Zoom call for some reason, but I will get back to you. And someone has also popped up on the chat feature that we should be constantly thinking outside the box. And that is very true, not just because of the circumstances we're in right now with the pandemic and everything going on that way, but just in general, we need to be open to and willing to go beyond what is normally comfortable for us. For instance, hosting all of this today is not something that I'm real comfortable with. I mean, I'm not scared of it, but I'm not overly comfortable with it. I would much rather be in front of all of you in person than sitting in front of a camera talking to you this way, because I can't see body language. I can't see individual faces. And it's harder for me to read how things are coming across to you. If I have you in person, I have an opportunity of potentially, not always, realizing that something I'm saying is bothering somebody or someone needs to hear something more about that, and I can tweak things. It's not easy to do that in this kind of a format because you're always constrained by time, but even more so with a format switching from one person to the next, from one presentation to the next. But since other than some general comments, I'm not seeing any more questions. So even though we have a few more minutes, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and wrap this up. And as I say, please feel free to be in touch with me. I would love to talk to any of you and all of you. But I appreciate your taking the time today to be part of any and all of our presentations. And I appreciate the work that you do as individuals and as units for United Methodist Women in Western Pennsylvania. Thank you very much. I do have one other comment that I just saw. And if you're still with me, hold on for just a moment. Somebody suggested that I close with a prayer, and I will be happy to do that. If you'll pray with me for just a moment. Creator, loving God, you are a friend, a brother, a helper. You're there with us to show us the way, to open our eyes, to keep and to guide us. We thank you for the opportunity today to present a couple of things that may help United Methodist Women in this part of your world understand the needs of ourselves and of others. We ask that you be with us as we go out into your world and do your work for your children and with your children. We love you. We need you. Be with us, we pray, O Lord. Amen. And remember that there will also be some videos up on the UMW page of the conference website about caring for others, different outreach ministries that you can do, like cards and prayer shawls and some things along those lines. So please tune in, if you will, to that website at the beginning of next week and see what else you can learn. And I thank you for your comments of encouragement and thanks. Have a great afternoon, ladies.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda.
Great job, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.